All right, so in this video, I'll be showing you how you can handle authentication for your application, for your web app using AWS services, right? So what do I mean by authentication? Authentication means like in your web app, you're familiar with this kind of forms, right? So this is a login form or user registration form or password reset form, right? And in the login form, you might have some social login as well, login with Google, login with Facebook. Now, we will be handling everything related to authentication using some AWS services, and I'll be like in a moment I'll be introducing you to that service. Anyway, so what's the motivation behind that? Why are we going with AWS services for that? So challenges in the backend. So basically, if you are handling authentication by yourself, if you're not using any kind of third-party services, so let us discuss about the challenges first. So the first challenge is you have to store the credentials securely. Like you cannot just store plain password, right? And nowadays you are not dealing with passwords that much. You are storing different kind of tokens as well. You are hashing the password. There are so many things you have to do to like make sure whatever you are storing that is secure, right? So yeah, you have to store the credentials securely. That's the first point. Then knowledge about tokens and strategy. If you are building authentication by yourself, authentication layer for your application, you have to have a like in-depth knowledge about JWT token, refresh token, access token, how you are getting new access token with refresh token. Many things you have to know to handle the authentication properly. I'm not saying that don't learn about these things, learn about these things, but this is a kind of a tedious process. Like for every application, you are doing just repetitive things, right? Nothing new, nothing like in this layer, you are not handling any kind of business logic. You are just doing some sort of housekeeping job, right? And there's a final option that is instead of going with AWS, you can use different social login provider. In that situation also, you are not handling authentication by yourself. So in your application, you just put a login with Google or login with Facebook button or login with LinkedIn. Like there are many social providers, right? So in that situation, you are not getting the full control over your user database. Okay, everything is kept inside that social provider, that authorization provider. And as inside AWS, that's a paid service. And as you are spending money, technically you are not spending money like for about 10,000 users. I'll be coming into that shortly as well. As this is a service, this is a web service, you have much more control rather than if you are going with, let's say, Google. Okay, so this is the third point. And now let us see why this solution. Why are we going with AWS services? The first one is it is an AWS service. So there is a like you don't have to worry about managing the infrastructure. And AWS has a lot of like great engineers, and their whole job is just to like maintain this token and like build the architecture so that like hacker cannot easily hack into the system. So that's one thing. It's AWS service. And integration with other services inside AWS. So if you are handling authentication from AWS and your application is using other different services, like you are uploading images into S3 bucket, you are hitting API endpoint like through API gateway. In those situations, you can seamlessly like control these things. Okay, you can integrate your authentication system. You can implement rollback access control and do lots of things from this layer, right? And third point is up to 10,000 user, it's free. Okay, so you are not spending a penny. And if you have more than 10,000 users, then I'm not even talking about the pricing, because in that situation you will be having a pretty big application, I guess. So you will be able to afford whatever the cost it will incur. And the final point is, this is very crucial. Within minutes, and in this video we'll be learning that within minutes you will be able to like set up everything. Like you have a working authentication, and that's production grade, right? You can just deploy your application and make it happen. So these are some of the points for which it's a very good idea that you go with this service. All right, so these are the steps we'll be following in this video, right, to achieve the authentication. So in the first step, we'll be creating a user pool. Inside AWS, there is a service called Cognito. And inside Cognito, there's a thing called user pool. So user pool is basically you will be able to track all the users that you're having for a particular application, right? And we'll be learning that in a bit. Yeah, so we'll be first creating a user pool, and then we'll be initializing a React application with White. So this will be a pretty simple React app. And finally, we will be adding authentication to that React application with the help of this user pool. And there's a concept called OAuth or OpenID Connect, right? So if you're not familiar with that concept, that's completely fine. Uh, just to use OpenID Connect, you don't have to understand like from the core. But yeah, there are a couple of videos, very good videos, and I'll be listing that in the description as well. So if you want to learn more about OpenID Connect or how what technologies are working. All right, so I have logged into my AWS console, and you have to search for Cognito here. So Cognito, right? And if you do not have anything in your region, then it will be just giving you the welcome screen or the landing page for Cognito service, right? So on the left panel, there are basically two things on this Cognito. The first one is user pool, and we'll be using this user pool. And the second sub service is identity pools. Identity pools is basically like from your application. If you want to use, let's say, different other AWS services, let's say you want to upload something, you want to give your user the ability to upload things or binary into S3 bucket, right? So from identity pools, you can get generate token to perform those kind of actions. But yeah, in this video, let's forget about identity pools. Let's click on the user pool, and in this region, so I have selected Asia Pacific Mumbai. This region, I don't have any kind of user pool, right? So hit create user pool, and traditional web application, like you have to choose the application first. So traditional web application, like if you are having your app hosted, let's say you are using PHP or Ruby on Rails or Django flags, those kind of thing, if you are using, then you have to select traditional web application. So basically, if you are selecting traditional web app, then you will be handling the authentication from the backend technologies. But for this video, I'll be showing you the authentication through a single page app, right? Like if you are using React, then React is a single page application. But yeah, if you are using Next.js, then you have to use this traditional web application. So anything that is server rendering, you have to select this traditional web app. But yeah, we'll be handling the authentication only from the React context, and we don't have any backend. So that's why we will be selecting single page application or SPA, right? The third category is mobile app. Like if you're building it for Android or iOS, then you have to select this. And machine to machine, this is basically if you want to authenticate any machine, right? So let's say you are having a service account, and you want to authenticate that. In that situation, you might like, these are some pretty high level stuff. Let's forget about this for now. Yeah, so I have selected single page application, and right now it is giving some default name, and you can change the name as well. Now this is important. So when the user is signing in, how should the user sign in? With email, phone number, or username? Most of the time you will be using email, right? So I'm selecting email, and require attributes for sign up. So obviously, if user is logging in, user has to sign up first, right? So when the user is signing up, if you are not mentioning anything, then the required parameter, required attribute would be email. So if I have selected phone number here, then the required attribute would be phone number, right? If you want to collect some other attribute during the sign up, then you can add it from here. Okay, you can add custom attribute as well. Let's not worry about that, but right now I'm just collecting email, that's it. And in the OAuth context or OpenID context, if you go through the OpenID concept videos, then you will get to know there is a concept called return URL. Return URL means when you will be signing in, right? To sign in, the app or like our application will redirect the user to another authentication server. So consider the social login, right? So when you are logging in with any social provider, like login with Google or login with Facebook, you are clicking on that login with Google, and it is taking you to the Google's server to login, right? And once the login is done, Google's server will redirect you back to that application that you are using, right? So this is the similar concept. once I will be setting up everything, it will make sense. But yeah, this return URL means after the authentication, we want to return the user. We want to take the user back in our application. As I will be running my application in my local host, so let me just mention the local host here. So clone / localhost, and as we'll be using White, it will listen for 5173 or 5172, I guess. Anyway, we can always change this port or change this return URL as well. Okay, so what we are saying, once the authentication is done, just send the user back to this localhost colon 5172. So when you are using this application in a production environment, then you will be entering your actual FQD and fully qualified domain name, right? And if you want to like take the user to some other location, you can mention the path here as well, maybe dashboard. Okay, but let us just take the user to the home page. Now we can just hit create user directory, and it will create a user directory for you. Now it has created all the database and all the connections and everything, and it is giving you some quick setup guide as well. So if you are in a React environment, select React, or you can go with pure JavaScript as well, or Angular obviously. So in React, first thing it is asking you to install two dependencies. The first one is YDC client DS and React YDC context. Basically, this is nothing, these libraries does not have anything to do with AWS or this user pool, right? So these are some general library to like handle authentication and authorization through YDC. Okay, and YDC is a standard, it's like HTTP maybe. Okay, so with this two library, we'll be handling the authentication. And once I will be setting up everything, it will make sense. And they are giving you some code snippets as well. All right, so I have opened an empty directory inside my VS Code called tutorial. You can call it whatever you want, right? So the first thing is we have to initialize a React project, right? So for that, we'll be using Vite or White. Okay, so go to White's website, and they're having pretty good documentation here, right? And in the get started page, you can just run this command, right? npm create White at latest. Okay, let me copy this and paste it here, and we'll be passing a dot here. So dot means do not create a new directory, just create whatever files you want in this directory only. Okay, so now it is asking you which kind of framework you want to use. We'll be using React. I'm going with JavaScript because this is a concept kind of video, so JavaScript is fine. Perfect, it has added all the necessary files. Now we just have to do npm install. It will install all the dependencies, right? While this is installing all the dependencies, let us copy this library name as well. So we have to run this command. Let us click here. Yeah, it might take some time. All right, we are done with the installation. Let me clear the terminal, and we have to install these two libraries, right? Perfect, hit enter. All right, now let us run this development server. Let me see what is happening there. Perfect, if I go back, and it is listening on local host. Let me copy the 5173. So this is a White React app, and we did some problem here. So we have mentioned the redirection URL as 5172, right? We can easily change that in the White level. Like there's a configuration file, White config file, and you can just pass a server here. For White, there is a configuration called server configuration, I guess. Let me server option. So we have to pass it like this, server. This is why I like TypeScript here. Yeah, port 3000. Perfect. Not 3000. We want to listen in for 5172. Yeah, now it is listening on 5172. By the way, you can like from this user pool, you can easily change that. So by the way, if I go to user pools, now you can see there's a user pool, right? So from here as well, you can change the redirection URL, but I'm not showing that to you. You can find out like there are many configurations here, right? So whenever like if you want to go back to that code example and all, you have to go to this app clients. Okay, And app clients main, for this particular user directory, you can have multiple web app, multiple mobile application, multiple server side application, right? So you just have to create new apps here. So from a single user base, you can create multiple front end app, multiple mobile application, multiple server side rendering app, right? So right now we are just having a simple single page application, that is React. Okay. And yeah, these are the library suggestion. And from this configuration, I guess, let me show you the configuration. Also, this is attribute. Yeah, you have to click on this edit. No, edit button is not that. Yeah, in the login page you have to edit, and this is the callback URL. So from here you have to like change the callback URL. Anyway, that's fine. And let us now just copy this code, and we will be replacing the index.js. For our case, index.js is main.js basically. So what they are doing is they are creating a configuration. So these are pretty standard configuration for OpenID Connect if you are familiar with OpenID. So authority, client ID, and if you are using only front end, if you don't have any kind of backend, then you don't have any client secret. Anyway, let's not worry about that. And that redirection URI. Okay, so this is the redirection URI. Make sure whatever redirection URI you are mentioning here, that is also listed in your uh, like user pull app client. All right, perfect. And scope means like what are the attributes you want to collect from OpenID. So these are pretty standard thing, right? Yeah, this is good. And they're suggesting one more page, that is app.js. Let me copy it here as well. So I'm just pasting like yeah, replacing everything. And app.css we are not using, and inside index.css, let's remove everything. We don't want any kind of styling for now. Yeah, so inside the app, what they are doing is they are actually calling a hook, and that hook is coming from React OIDC context, right? And in the main.jsx, you can see they are getting a auth provider from React OIDC context, and they are basically giving like providing the context here. So this is pretty simple React stuff. If you're familiar with React, this should make sense to you. Yep. And they are getting the auth object, and inside the auth object you are having multiple properties: is loading, error, is authenticated. So they're just checking if the user is authenticated. You are just mentioning the hello user email, and ID token, access token, refresh token. You don't have to worry about these things if you're not familiar with this. That's completely fine. You just check like from your components, you can just check this property, like if user is authenticated or not. And finally, if the user is authenticated, if the user is not authenticated, then it is just showing this sign in and sign out button. Now, if you look closely, they are having two sign out button. So this is a sign out button, and also this is a sign out button. And on the first sign out button, it will just sign you out from your application, not from the, like if I give you an example, let's say you have added social login, right? So if you have sign in with Google, and let's say you are using Canva, right? So you log into Canva and you hit log out, and it will log you out from Canva, not from Google's, like not from Gmail login, right? But inside Canva, you can put different button like that, like this as well. So sign out with redirection. So that will sign out you from Canva and as well as from the Google's server as well. Okay. But yeah, this is getting complicated. So let me just show you what do I mean by these things. So yeah, our server is running up and running. That's perfectly fine. And let me give it a hard refresh in 5172, and we should have a sign in. Okay, so if I hit this sign in now, it should take me, you can see, so this is a pre-built login page, and you can see the domain has been changed as well. By the way, you can completely change this login page. So from here, if you go to this login page, you can add your own CSS, own logo, own elements, like many things you can change from here. Okay, and you can launch the login page from here as well. Anyway, so I'm in the sign in page. I don't have any account, so I want to create a new account, and it is asking me for an email address. So let's do one thing. Let me have a 10 minutes email, 10 minutes mail. Perfect. And yep, this is our email address. Perfect, because it will send you a verification code as well. So password, it is suggesting me some strong password. We want to use our own. So secret add 123. Let me do show password. Yeah, secret add 123. Perfect. So hit sign up. Okay, perfect. Hit sign up, and it has sent a verification code to that email. By the way, you can change these things. Right now it is just sending a verification code from Cognito, but you can set up your own mail server as well. So yeah, we got the verification code, and so this is the code. Enter the code, confirm account. Perfect. So you can see now we are inside localhost. So login is done. Okay, so after the sign up, it has automatically redirect back the user. So now I know this email address. Hello. Okay, so I can hit sign out, and I'm done. All right. So now if I hit sign in, it will not ask me for my email address again, because I'm already signed in to that particular domain name. So like there is an authorization domain here, right? That is changed, not localhost. So hit sign out, and from this page, if I hit sign out, it will, like, now from this domain also I have logged out. Okay, so right now it is giving you error, because as we have entered a redirection URL for like we have to redirect the user after the login. We have to mention a logout URL as well. So after the logout, this domain should redirect the user to that particular URL. So that might be some unauthenticated route in your application. Okay, but as we don't have that, we didn't configure that, it is giving us some error. That's completely fine. If I go back to here again, hit sign in. Now it is asking us for the email, and I don't know why it has took this email in the memory, but anyway, hit next. Password was secret at 123. Okay, and you can see like you have forgot password. Like in a moment you have all of your authentication in place. Okay, so if you hit continue, yeah, we have logged in. Now if I go to our backend, and let's go to the user pool, select this user pool, and there's a user management section. So from this user management section, you can see there's a new user. You can put this user in different group. Right now we don't have any group, but yeah, and you can configure a lot of things from here. If you need social login, you can add social login from here as well. Okay, so yeah, add identity provider. You can see Facebook, Google. It by default it supports a lot of things. And also, like, if you're familiar with SAML, OpenID Connect, you can bring your own SAML provider, OpenID Connect provider as well, right? So let's say in this screen, like, let me sign out again. Yeah, so in this screen, you want to put a login with Google button or login with Facebook button. You can configure that from here. You don't have to touch anything in your application code. So this is the power of AWS Cognito or AWS user pool, you can say, right? And like overall, you can create as many user pools you want, and inside the user pool, you can add as many app client you want, and in your account you can have 10,000 users. First 10,000 users will be free, right? So these users. Okay, now let's say I have two user pool. On the first user pool I can have 8,000 user, and in the second user pool I can have 2,000 user. Okay, so it will be divided between the user pools. Anyway, so this is all about this video. If you have any further question, please let me know in the comment section. I will try to answer those. And in this channel, we try to learn about everything related to AWS and AWS serverless. So this is a serverless thing as well. So yeah, if you are interested in this kind of things, then consider subscribing to this channel. I will see you in the next one. Thanks.